What's up, everyone? We are back with episode 2 of the Final Bosses podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Ultimate Floyd. How you doing, man?
Not bad, man. How are you?
I'm doing really good because all I've been doing, and we might as well call this the Persona episode. All I've been doing is playing Persona 5, and I think you've been in the same boat.
Yeah, it's like, it's like the games we've been playing part of the episode is how we start off, and it's like Persona 5's all I've been playing. I'm 81 hours into this game, and I'm still not done.
Yeah, I mean, I think I should have just, like, in our show notes, just renamed it, let's just talk about Persona 5.
Yeah, but for people that are listening, don't worry about spoilers. We're not going to be spoiling anything. This will be a spoiler-free kind of discussion on the game.
Yeah, I told him that before we started recording because I'm only on, like, the third palace, and I think Ultimate Floyd's, like, way farther than I am, so, you know, don't worry, nobody's gonna get spoiled on anything. So, I just gotta first say, though, I know a lot of people love Persona 5, and Persona 4, and I like Persona 4 as well, and I might be jumping the gun a bit, but I think I like 5 more already.
So already, okay. So I like Persona 5 more than 3 and 4. Like quite a bit more actually.
Thing is, I still feel really strongly about Persona 3. Like, its themes just, like, hit me really hard, and, you know, Persona 4, you know, Persona 4's themes were really good too, about, like, accepting yourself and, you know, analyzing aspects of yourself that, you know, you may not necessarily want to deal with or are comfortable with. That's cool too. But the stuff that Persona 3 tackled, to me especially, was really profound. So, I don't know, it's had a really strong effect on me. But Persona 5 is kicking all kinds of ass right now. Like, I am fucking loving this game.
So Persona 3, like I did like a top 10 favorite games of all time video not too long ago. Persona 3 was number 3 on my list. Like, it's my third favorite game of all time. And this is better. I like this way better. So that means that this game is my third favorite game of all time. The question is whether I like it better than Undertale or Dark Souls, which is like my number 1 and 2. I don't think it's quite there yet, but it's one of my favorite games of all time. Like, this game is absolutely incredible.
I could never do that. I could never, like, set up a list and, like, this is number 1, this is number 2, number 3. I can't do that. I don't know. I can't segment a list like that. I'm just too, like, I like games for so many different reasons that, like, I can't really quantify how I preferred, like, Devil May Cry 3 over something like Persona, like, but yeah, I don't know, that's just me.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like, when I was doing it, like, it was actually really hard to do, and I was like, and ever since doing it, like, honestly, it's all probably already changed. Like, it just changes constantly.
I always prefer to use tiers. Like, these are the top tier, you know, these are the low tier. And it's just like all of those games within that tier, you know, I may not necessarily like them all the same, but I like them about the same. They're just kind of like in this nebulous area.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. That's a good way of looking at things.
But Persona 5, I'd say, is already top tier. I feel pretty confident in saying that.
Yeah, so, like, as far as, like, gameplay goes, like, this, like, I guess I probably would start talking about, like, the dungeons in this game, because I think that's, like, the biggest single improvement for this series. Like, they went from having, like, these randomly generated dungeons, which were fine. Like, I didn't hate them like some people do. But this is, like, the dungeons, they've gone from randomly generated ones to some of the best dungeons I've seen in a JRPG. Like, these are incredible, super involved dungeons with, like, actually pretty interesting puzzles. The way the themes are tackled with the dungeon, like the way that the story is told through the dungeon, and just, like, the whole map system, I think, is really great. The safe room part of it. Just the stealth elements that actually work quite well. Usually I'm not a fan of stealth in games, and this game, like, tackles it beautifully. Like these dungeons, like the fourth one, you haven't reached it yet. I'm not going to spoil anything about it, but it's like probably the best dungeon I've seen in a JRPG. Like it's incredible.
Now, one thing I really like, and I think they were toying around with this in Persona 4, and not so much in 3. Tartarus was just this fucking tower that mostly, like, it represented life and death, while in Persona 4, the dungeons specifically were catered around the different people, and that would eventually become your party members. And it was about, like, their anxieties and, you know, the stuff that they were going through, you know. And Persona 5 just took what Persona 4 did and, like, turned and cranked it up to 11. Because they were still randomly generated in 4. But they kind of had that general theme of, like, oh, this is Kanji's bathhouse. Or Rize's weird strip club thing. But it was still randomly generated, so there was only so much they can do. But in 5, since all the dungeons are handcrafted, they're just going, like, fucking balls to the wall with the design, and they're going crazy with all this. Like, in Dungeon 3, you could, because the villain, or, you know, the character tied to that dungeon is an artist, so you're, like, moving through paintings and stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah. They all relate to like the villain's like heart, like in these really interesting ways. Like I love what they do with the dungeons and like how they relate to the characters.
It's awesome. And I love how evil these guys are. It's I mean, it's nice to have, like, depending on what story you have going for you, it's nice to have like some sort of gray morality, but I think I think there's also a real sense of purity in how, like, these guys are just scum fucks, and they're really representative of, like, actual people in real life and how they're adversely affecting society, which a lot of the Persona 5 is about how we're, like, slaves to society, or, you know, a lot of it has to do with that, and these guys are, like, representative of the scum fucks of society and how they're adversely affecting us. And I think just making them this, like, really hateable fucks really gets across their message really well.
Yeah, and it creates like a pretty dark tone. Like I feel like this game is definitely I don't know if it's darker than Persona 3, but it's way darker than Persona 4. Like the first villain in this game is such a fucking scumbag. Like it's like, oh man, like he's so hateable. It's actually pretty great.
He has such a punchable face. Just look at that smug face and you just want to deck him.
Yeah, like other things with the game, like the visual style to this game is absolutely insane. Like I just love like the care that went into like the different visuals, like almost like it has like a comic book style at times that I really like. Like the character models are all great. Like the menus, of course, like everyone has been saying, the menus, like the UI is just absolutely incredible and just amazing to look at. And it's not like overdone. It's not one of those things that gets in the way. Like it actually just adds to the experience. Like I don't think it's actually too much or anything like that.
This game, basically, if we're talking just about the graphics, feels like an updated or like an improved version of Catherine.
It does, yeah, for sure.
Like, I remember Catherine looked pretty good when it came out, but, you know, I feel like this game in particular just, like, ironed out a lot of kind of Catherine's rougher edges in some of the cutscenes and stuff. And just in terms of overall presentation, the presentation in this game is just a huge step up in general for the series and for other Atlas games that I've played. Like, the presentation here is just fucking phenomenal. I think I'd almost go as far as to say, like, it sets a new standard. Like, the sense of style in this game is unprecedented. It's fucking just playing the game just feels good. Just looking at the game just feels good because it's the sense of style. It's almost effortless how well it's integrated into the game.
Yeah, there's all these like little different like touches that I really like the loading screens, how it shows like these silhouettes in like a subway when you're transferring from station to station. When the fan site gets up and running, it's in the loading screen at the bottom right, and you have all like these people saying different things like in the message board or the chat. Like the map screens are all like look really cool as well. Like everything, like there's so much attention to detail. It's absolutely insane.
I almost feel like because with a lot of like loading screens or stuff like that, you've seen them once, you've seen them all, you know. But like even in this game, just watching the loading screen where you see like the calendar and then like the dagger stabs the next date, you know, and you see the background is the city and stuff. Like I feel like I'm noticing new things almost every time, even though it's the same loading screen for the most part. There's just so much detail put into it that it even something like a loading screen is less painful because of how meticulously crafted it is.
Right. Yeah. It's really impressive, and it's one of those games where it's like anytime it's loading, I never feel like it's loading. Like I've never like with a lot of games when like a loading screen happens, it's like when am I going to get to the game again? But this game, I never had that feeling. It was kind of weird.
It's almost as if the loading is actually part of the pacing of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's like something will happen and then it will transition to a load, and it almost feels like, yeah, this is a natural pause for what's going on.
Yeah, it's really well done. What do you think of the soundtrack in this game so far?
I dig it. I like it. I wouldn't say it's Shoji's best. I think that would probably go to some of the PS2 Shin Megami Tensei games like Nocturne or Digital Devil Saga. I think that's probably his strongest work. Devil Summoner had a really great soundtrack too. But this is still really good and really fitting for the game. I would say like the songs themselves, I wouldn't listen to them the same way I'd listen to like the boss theme from like Digital Devil Saga or something, which is just like really grimy and awesome.
Yeah, the soundtrack in this is actually, I feel like it's actually quite a bit different from like Persona 3 and 4. Like this one's more like almost jazzy. It's got like a lot of jazz type songs to it. There's not as many like infectiously catchy like vocal driven songs as there were in Persona 3 and 4. Like they're not as pop oriented.
Well, there is the opening. That song is pretty catchy.
Yeah, there's definitely some like the song that plays in the 6th dungeon is like it's so good. Like it's one of the best songs I've heard in an RPG. Like it's incredible, and it reminds me of like Persona 3 and 4. But the music in this game, it definitely fits for sure. It's just some of it gets a little repetitive for me, and I feel like even though there's a lot of music in this game, like they play the same songs over and over again.
Yeah, that's kind of always been a problem with the series in general, though.
The soundtrack's definitely really good, but it's a little disappointing for me, I guess, just because I love Persona 3 and 4's soundtrack so much. I haven't actually heard Nocturne or the Digital Devil Saga game soundtracks yet, so I can't really compare there.
I have to at least recommend after this, just listen to the song called Big Battle from Digital Devil Saga. Just trust me, that's the fucking shit right there.
Okay, yeah, that's one of those games. I'm definitely gonna play that soon. I gotta play those games.
Yeah, I'd say because older Shin Megami Tensei games can be difficult to jump into. They're a lot more brutal and hardcore compared to Persona in a lot of ways. But I'd say Digital Devil Saga is probably the easier to get into, simply because they kind of imbue more of like a traditional RPG setup with the eccentricities of the Shin Megami Tensei like aesthetic and formula. Because like in Nocturne, for example, it's all about like the demon recruiting and shit, while in Digital Devil Saga you have your set team and they can learn all the abilities in the game through like the mantra grid, which is basically like a sphere grid type of system, rather than negotiating with demons.
Yeah, you don't fuse demons in Digital Devil Saga, which is actually kind of interesting. I like the sounds of that, actually. I think that sounds like a refreshing change of pace for the series.
And yeah, what I really like about it is you'd think, oh, wouldn't the game be broken if you could just learn all the abilities? No, because the game forces you, as you level up, you can increase how much you can carry. However, the game forces you to only equip a certain number of skills at a time. So you could have all the skills in the game, but you can only fit in about, I think it was something like 8 or 10. So that these games are notorious for their difficulty, and even Digital Devil Saga manages to keep it pretty balanced.
Okay. Yeah, with like Persona 5, it's actually at this point in the game now, it's actually getting pretty tough. Like I just at least on normal mode, like I just got through a boss battle that was like 3 stages. I had to actually use my Soma items that I had. Like I was running out of MP, and it was hairy at multiple times. I was like, shit, man, this game's starting to get challenging, but in a good way. Like it's definitely satisfying.
Whenever people, and I've heard this multiple times, whenever people go like, "Oh, turn-based RPGs are too easy," I always have to point them to the Shin Megami Tensei games and be like, "You ain't seen shit, son."
Yeah.
I consider myself a veteran at these types of games, and even I've died a few times playing Persona 5. Like, these games don't fuck around.
Yeah, so Persona 5 still has like the thing where like main character, if your main character dies, it's game over, which that's like one of the things with this game that I'm not crazy about. It can be kind of annoying.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. It was in Persona 4, it was in Persona 3. I still don't like it. Funnily enough, Digital Devil Saga does not have that problem.
Really, the more I hear about that game, the more I think it might actually end up being one of my favorites in the series. I definitely gotta play it.
It's really fucking good.
With Persona 5, like, it's really, I feel like this has kind of cemented the Persona games as maybe my favorite JRPG series. Like, I just love the structure to these games, like the mix of like the social elements, the dungeon crawling, the calendar, different system where you spending your like it's got time management to it that I guess is overwhelming for some people. Like I've seen some people that are playing Persona 5 as like their first entry in the series, and they just can't get over the whole like time management aspect to it, and they find it just overwhelming. But for me, it's like that's what sets this game apart. It's refreshing to me. I don't know. It's one of those games where it's like becomes really addictive. Like the structure just. Because like when I get sick of dungeon crawling, I can just do like a bunch of social link stuff and like upgrading my stats. And then when I get sick of that, I can go back to the dungeon crawling. Like I don't know. I really do like the structure of these games.
And what's really great about it is that all of it kind of like feeds into each other. And yeah. Persona 5 has taken it even a step further, where when you do social links with different people, because before all you would get is, oh, the bonus experience from Fusion. And if it was one of your party members and you ranked them to like rank 10, then it would allow them to like I guess class upgrade or whatever their persona, and that would be the benefit from that, which was cool. But Persona 5 takes it a step further, where like now all the social links will start giving you these different abilities. Like this one lady at a clinic. If you keep upping her social link, she will sell you medicine for less. There will be another one, this other character, where you can do because this game has a thing where after you come back from a dungeon, you can't do anything afterwards. Well, this character will allow its use, so you can keep doing things even after you come back from a dungeon. Your character won't be tired anymore. So like. On top of the bonus experience from the fusions that you would normally get, now you're having all these other abilities that further incentivizes you to do the social links, because then it helps you out in the dungeons as well.
Yeah, it's far more rewarding in this game, and they actually tie into the story more. Like one of the things, like they're not called social links anymore; they're confidants, because they're characters that help you throughout the story and tie into the main story, as well as actually the side dungeon as well, which is a whole other aspect of the game that I like as well.
Yeah, Mementos, which is basically a randomized dungeon in the same vein as like how it was in Personas 3 and 4, but I appreciate that it's a side dungeon and it's something that's optional for the most part.
Yeah, the only thing about Mementos I'm not crazy about is the fact that I think the enemies in there are honestly a little too weak. They're always weaker than the main dungeon enemies that you're currently at. So it can kind of feel like a slog at times.
They probably didn't want you to grind too much.
Yeah, so you could get over-leveled, yeah. Still, I like a lot of the requests that have you going down there. And actually, some of the Confidant storylines will have you actually do requests down there, which is actually pretty interesting as well.
I haven't done that, actually. That's cool.
Yeah, like you said, you mentioned about the time thing, like where like basically you would be too tired after certain things. That's one of those things that I guess a lot of people have complained about. And in the beginning, it was kind of annoying, but when you did go for that one social link that eventually gave you that reward, so you weren't tired, like it was just this great feeling. So I don't know, like a part of me feels like maybe I don't mind it so much actually being in the game.
Maybe it was worth it just for that moment of just like, oh,
Yeah. Because it's such a great moment, and that social link in general, like this, the personal story there is actually really good as well. Like pretty much all of the confidant storylines are really interesting. Like I pretty much like them all.
yeah, I'd say that they're a step up from the previous games. Even though the previous games had some really great social links, there was also a few stinkers here and there. But this one, there hasn't been one where I'm like, oh, this one sucks. Like all of them so far, at least based on what I've played so far.
There's one very later in the game. It takes a while to get to, but I'm not crazy about it.
But yeah, I think maybe we should stop sucking the game's dick. Maybe move on to something else.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I would mention is like I guess the translation has been getting shit on.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about that. I mean, I will say that as I've played through the game, I have noticed some lines here and there where I'm like, oh, I would have worded that differently. Oh, that seemed a little awkward. But that's it. For the most part, it's fine. I mean, it's probably not the best translation I've seen, but some people are acting like it's fucking terrible, like it ruins the game and makes it unplayable, and I'm like, you people are out of your fucking minds. Like, the translation is fine. It's pretty good for the most part. It's just got some rough spots here and there.
Yeah, like I don't know, like what high standards are these people like holding it up to? Like I honestly don't understand. Like I don't know like any JRPGs that have like this incredible localization that makes like this one seem so shitty. I don't know. I don't get it.
I mean, I can understand if we were talking about Fire Emblem Fates, which apparently like completely changed characters' personalities and just completely altered the script in so many ways and was like a huge mess. Like, okay, that fine, I can understand. But this, I don't see it. Another one that was a huge mess was Tales of Hearts R. The translation in that was really bad, like really fucked up. Characters' names were changed as well as personalities. Just a really fucked up translation. This is not that. This is a mostly pretty solid translation with just a few like rough spots. I don't get what people are talking about.
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't know. I think it's just this weird like outrage culture where we just got to be angry at everything for some reason.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's kind of bizarre. Like there's definitely some rough spots, like some parts where it's like I was like, okay, that the English there is kind of weird, and like the way characters' names are pronounced, I guess, is wrong in certain spots. But and it's kind of like a more literal translation from what I've heard. But it's also it's one of those things where you have to remember this game is fucking huge. Like this is a 100-hour game. The undertaking that this would have been for localizing it is just insane. So the fact that it's actually the localization is as good as it is pretty crazy. I think like it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game's translation is fine.
Yeah, I do feel like maybe we were being like super positive on this game, or not to bring up like some of the negatives, but like anything I don't like about this game is so minor. Like it's just I love almost everything about it.
I remember you complaining on Twitter about Palace 5.
Yeah, okay. There's one part in the beginning of that dungeon that's really annoying and it's tedious, but it's once you finish it, it's fine. The rest of the dungeon is actually pretty fun. I enjoyed it. Like there's like that, the main character dying, some pacing issues here and there, and then some localization issues here and there. That's about it. Everything else I love about the game.
So far, I love the game too. My only complaints are like negligible.
I mean, the battle system is not like a huge improvement over Persona 4, but what they have added is good. Like the baton pass system, I really like. I like how they added nuclear and psi attacks as well. It's not like a crazy improvement. It's still one of my favorite turn-based battle systems. Like I just really like the strategy involved in Persona fusing.
Now, something that I do think is a problem, it's not game's fault though, and that is how Atlas is handling the spoilers surrounding Persona 5.
Yeah, so this is like one of our news topics, so well, yeah, move on to this now.
Basically, with Persona 5, Atlas has taken away the share functionality. You can't take pictures, you can't post up video clips, and if anybody is caught intentionally spoiling the game, they're going to take down their video. And if anything is shown past the date 7/7 in the game, I'm not talking about the real life date, I'm talking about the date in the game, 7/7. If you get past that point and you show footage past that point or you stream past that point, Atlas is going to swing the ban hammer on you.
So I guess it's kind of a complicated issue. There's a lot of people that stand on different sides. I think it's they're going overboard, honestly. I think this is honestly a little ridiculous. It's not going to stop spoilers from getting out there. Like nothing they can do can really avoid spoilers getting out there, and it's just it penalizes people from like showing the game, and like people that want to watch like streams and like let's plays of it like later, like the Super Best Friends were going to do like a let's play of it, and then they can't because of these rules.
That really bummed me out. I really enjoyed the episodes that they had posted, and now I can't enjoy the rest of it.
Yeah, like, and it wouldn't have been something I would watch right away, but like it would have been something I would watch later when it was finished and I'd finished the game. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of this weird thing. I don't understand why they have to be so, like, I mean, they're even blocking screenshots of the trophies that you unlock. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell is that going to do?
Yeah, it's really overboard. I don't get it. I mean, well, here's the thing. I don't think it has anything to do with spoilers. It has more to do, I think, with this weird stubbornness over there in Japan, where they think that, did you know originally Yakuza 0 wasn't going to have the share functionality, and Sega of America had to fight Sega of Japan? It's like, no, we need to keep this in because this is what's going to make the game sell. And they had to like really fight with them to like keep it in there.
Really? Yeah, because I've heard Japan's bad with that stuff. Because like even like Nintendo, for instance, like Nintendo of Japan, just like they're constantly going after people with copyright strikes. Like as soon as they like it's weird.
They don't understand that we're helping them. Like just Yakuza 0 is the best-selling game in the series. And a big reason for that is because people were streaming it. People playing the game were posting on Twitter. It's like, look at this fucking guy running around in his underwear. Look at this fucking scene where this chick is like beasting around, beating the shit out of dudes, and Kazuma's saying, that's rad! Like, if it wasn't for things like that, I don't think Yakuza 0 wouldn't have been as successful. And they don't understand that. All they see is, oh, we made this game. This is ours. This is our intellectual property. How dare they try to do things with our game that we didn't intend?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's like they look at this stuff and see it as a way to lose money or something. I don't get it.
They're just stubborn and, behind the times, and they don't understand. I don't really think this is a fault of like the developers. I think this is probably more so the guys in suits that are running the company, and they're just a bunch of stubborn, like old Japanese businessmen that are behind the times and they don't really understand.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like a lot of people I've seen like are actually like want to almost boycott Atlas for this and won't even play the game. Like I wouldn't go that far.
See, that's too far in the other direction.
Yeah, like I would still support the company. It's just it's just disappointing to see.
I don't understand people that like take it that far either. Like I remember there were people that had pre-ordered Tales of Berseria, and then they canceled their pre-order because of that one scene that was changed. Like, grow the fuck up, people. Yeah, I agree, the new scene sucks, and the old scene was a lot better. But come the fuck on. You're gonna treat these people like they're the fucking devil because they changed one fucking scene so they could keep the age rating at T instead of M? Like, get out of here.
Yeah, people just tend to like focus on the smallest things about a game and just like let it ruin the whole experience for them. Like the Persona 5 localization.
I'm telling you, it's this outrage culture. It doesn't matter if what you're angry about makes sense, or if you've thought about it, or if you try to understand that it's a compromise, you're mad, and it feels good to be mad. So just because you're mad, you're justified. It's fucking dumb.
Yep. But yeah, I guess moving on, and more Persona. Like, I swear, this is the Persona podcast.
The Persona cast.
Atlas kind of registered new possible Persona names. So there's quite a few here. Like, what is it? P3D, P5AG, P5D, P5R, P5U, Persona Dance, which I think might be some kind of like network kind of thing, like a website or something, and PQ2.
All right, just to be clear to everyone, just because these names were registered, that doesn't necessarily mean all of them are going to be used. In the same way, the Tales series has a tendency of, when they're going to make a new game, they register a bunch of names at once, and one of them will be used for the new game. We can speculate that maybe some of these will be used for a game, but not necessarily all of them.
Yeah, like the one that jumps out at me is Persona 5R, which, I mean, some people are saying it could be racing, which that just seems so weird to me. No fucking way. I just...
No fucking way. I don't think so.
But the question is, what would the R stand for? I don't know.
Rebirth. Resurrection, Persona 5 The Revenge. Actually, the one that stands out to me the most is Persona 3D. Maybe Definitive?
Yeah. Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like, I mean, some people are saying Persona 3 Dancing, but...
I want to punch that person in the face then, because no, I don't want no dancing game. I want the best of the PS2 version, the best of the PSP version, maybe some extra stuff, and put it in HD. Give me that. I want it.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I hope.
I think it's kind of dumb that we have two versions of the same game and neither version is like really the version that you should play. Like, both of them have things in them that are worth experiencing. Like, the portable version has the female character, but then Persona 3 FES has the epilogue stuff. So I forget what that was called. The Answer? Yeah, The Answer. So if we could like put that together in one package and maybe, I don't know, clean up some stuff, fix a few things, maybe add some extra content. Mwah! Beautiful. Do it. Fucking do it.
That would be like the best of these possible names. Like, that's like the ultimate hope. The PQ2 is kind of interesting. That wouldn't surprise me if they do another Persona Q.
I never played it.
It's not that good. I mean, if you like first-person dungeon crawlers, it's probably fine, but I don't know. That genre is...
I don't like those.
Yeah, I can't get into them, and that game didn't change my mind, but...
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. It just bugs me. It's one of those few things where it just doesn't jibe well with me, and I don't really understand why. It just doesn't. It's less engaging for me for some weird reason.
Yeah, I'm basically the same way.
I have no idea what P5AG is supposed to mean.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I have no idea.
I mean, at least like P5D, that might be another dancing game, which I hope not.
Yeah, the dancing game was Persona 4 Golden, or what was it called? Persona 4 Dancing All Night. Yeah, like, it was okay. It definitely wasn't one of the better rhythm games, and the story was just utter trash in that game. It was way too much of it too.
Oh, the story was bad.
Oh yeah, it was just it was horrendous. Like, I hated it.
Then again, like, what was I expecting?
Like, it's crazy that they were able to bring all these characters that I really loved and just somehow come up with this horrible story behind the game and just have me not caring about anything that happened. Like, I don't know. That was just
like, you don't understand how many times I've seen a copy of that game and I'm wrestling with myself going, should I get this? Should I not? And I never actually buy it. I've never like taken the plunge, but I think now I'm just going to be like, no.
No, it's really not worth playing. I didn't think it was all that great. Like the rhythm gameplay is just kind of meh. Like it's not terrible, but it's not that great.
Hopefully they just forget the whole dancing thing, but based on like the fact that one of them is literally just called Persona Dance, for some fucking reason they want to keep it going.
Yeah, can't say I care much.
P5U might be Ultimax, which is the fighting game. So, I mean, that would be cool at least.
Yeah, I've never played the fighting games. I'm not like a huge fighting game person, so
I played some of Persona 4 Arena, and I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. It plays a lot like Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear, if you're into that kind of game.
yeah, I've never played either of those games.
I really like Blaze Blue, so I enjoyed Persona Arena.
How was the story in it? Because there was like a kind of like a story mode, right?
There was, but I only ever played it in verses. I never actually bothered with the
Okay.
story.
Yeah, one of these days I'll have to try that game.
Yeah, one of these days. So moving on, the last news topic that we have is that the NES Mini has been discontinued and that we might be getting an SNES Mini.
Okay, so this is like fucking Nintendo, man. I don't understand them. It's like you have this product that people are going insane for, and I work at an EB Games, and it's just we constantly get people calling, coming, and asking about it. And you hardly make any of them. You send like maybe one or two every like 3 weeks. And then it's like, and now you just continue it. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? There's so much money to be made here, and it's just you're throwing it all away. This thing is going to be one of those things that's going to be like $500,000 on eBay now, just because of the way they like. It's like they're enabling scalpers so much. It's so aggravating.
You know, there's another podcast I really like called the Completely Unnecessary Podcast, and they have a segment called the Scumbag Seller of the Week.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those. They're pretty funny.
They're pretty great, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they're probably gonna have the NES Mini Scumbag of the Week or something, because that's what's gonna happen. Like, there's gonna be these NES Minis just skyrocketing in price when they only cost $60 fucking dollars. It doesn't need to be this way, Nintendo.
Yeah, I had a chance to get one and I declined, and I'm like sort of kicking myself a little bit, but I don't know.
That being said, I am more excited for an SNES Mini because I kind of grew up with an NES, but not really. It was mostly the NES that I grew up with, so I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah, so the NES is kind of like a more nostalgic system for me. It's the first one I played, and I owned it for longer than I did the Super Nintendo. So it definitely has more nostalgic memories like tied to it. But the Super Nintendo, I think, is a far superior system. It's got far superior games. It's my favorite system of all time, actually. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this because honestly, I'm expecting Nintendo to fuck this up. Like,
yeah, I mean, this is Nintendo we're talking about.
Like, so first off, the fact that it's probably going to be like NES Mini, where it's going to be impossible to get. They hardly make any of them, and I think the game selection is going to be lacking. I think that's the biggest thing with this. Like the NES Mini had 30 games. I think this is going to have maybe 20, like 15 to 20. It's going to be a little more expensive too, obviously, and it's probably mostly going to be Nintendo first-party games. Like they showed that they were able to get some third-party stuff on the NES Mini, which was cool, but there was definitely some weird choices there, like Castlevania 2 instead of 3. I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I remember that too. I'm like, what are you doing? What were you thinking?
Yeah, it's so with the Super Nintendo Mini, like a lot of like Yoshi's Island is one of my favorite games of all time, and it's not going to be on there because FX chip games, for some reason, there's something up with them. They just can't get them on emulation services. Like it's never been on Virtual Console. Neither has Star Fox. So those games won't be on there. Like Donkey Kong Country Trilogy, I love it so much. They're only probably going to put the first one on there, even though it's like my least favorite of the three. Just like, I don't know. I think the game selection is going to be lacking. Like RPGs, there's so many great RPGs on that system. Like, honestly, I don't even know if Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy 4 or 6 are going to be on there.
Honestly, if we don't get at least one of those 3 games, I'll consider this a failure.
Like, 'cause they had Square for the NES, but it was only the original Final Fantasy. I don't know if they can get a lot of their games on here. Even Mario RPG, I don't know, because that's a Square game, right?
Yeah, you're right. It is a Square game. I keep forgetting that. Fuck. I want this to be good, but there's so much... There's so much in the way. Fuck.
Yeah, there's also a lot of like interesting, like lesser known games on that system, like that would have been really cool to have on this. Like Lufia 2 is the one that everyone's just like, oh, it's like one of the best JRPGs ever. Like, sorry, it's not going to be on there. Like, it's just not.
Imagine they put Lufia 1, which no one cares about.
See, that would be something I would expect, because like, I don't know. Like, there's also games like Evo Search for Eden. It's like this really awesome game, but it's like, that has no chance of being on something like this.
Maybe we'll get... did we get Double Dragon on the NES Mini?
We got Double Dragon 2 for some reason.
Maybe we'll get Super Double Dragon. Or maybe they'll really fuck up and get Double Dragon 5, which... which was based on the cartoon.
Like, we won't get Ninja Turtles Turtles in Time because of the licensing issues. We won't get any of the Disney games. Like, it's just... I don't know. I'm expecting to be disappointed with this.
Oh, man. I used to fucking love the Magical Quest of Mickey on SNES. Like, fuck. I used to play that game so much as a kid. I must have beaten it like 5 times.
Yeah, the Capcom game, Disney games, like, will not get any of those. Like, Demon's Crest, I'm not expecting, even though that's like one of the best games on the system.
That would have been cool. At least that's on the Virtual Console.
Yeah, the Virtual Console at least has like some of these I've been mentioning. Like Mario RPG's on there finally, but I don't know. Maybe I'll be surprised here. Maybe they will surprise us and actually put some of like these really well-known, awesome games on here. But
I think we can at least agree that they are definitely going to put Super Mario World, A Link to the Past, and Super Metroid, and that's like the Triforce of awesome.
Yeah, all those 3 games are like incredibly good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can go as far as say it'd be worth it just for those 3 games, but those 3 games are really fucking incredible.
Yeah, like Earthbound might be on there actually. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, they should definitely put Earthbound.
Yeah, I think Earthbound has a good chance. Super Punch Out probably is going to be on there.
Well, they'll probably put Super Tecmo Bowl because they had the original Tecmo Bowl on NES.
Yeah, or NBA Jam. I feel like it's really popular.
That would be cool. NBA Jam was awesome.
Yeah. What was the other thing? Mario Paint.
I mean, they might. I don't know. Didn't that need a peripheral?
Yeah, there's like the mouse, but you didn't need it. I don't think. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they'd throw that in. That's more of like a novelty kind of thing.
Like ActRaiser's one that a lot of people love, but I think who published that? It wasn't Nintendo.
That was Enix.
Yeah, it was Enix. Like, I don't know. They probably won't get any Enix games. Like,
I believe it was developed by Quintet.
Quintet, I know the 3 games that they did was Terra Enigma, Illusion of Gaia.
We'll never get Terra Enigma.
Yeah. But yeah, Illusion of Gaia we're probably not even going to have on that. And it's like, people love that game.
Illusion of Gaia is really good.
Like, I don't know. The weird thing too, I was thinking actually with Final Fantasy 4 and 6, the weird thing with those is that they were called 2 and 3 on the Super Nintendo, and I almost could see Square using like this ridiculous logic where, oh well, they were called 2 and 3 on Super Nintendo, and that would confuse people because they're not actually 2 and 3. So, we're not going to put them on there.
Oh god, that would just be the worst.
I'm sorry. I'm being too much. I'm being too much of a bummer. I'm sorry, but it's.
That would be the worst if they're still called 2 and 3.
Because I mean, they would have to change the title screens or something, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. Nintendo, you may not know this, but with Wave Race 64 on the Virtual Console, which was a Nintendo 64 game, had advertisements for, I believe, Yamaha or something. They went into the game's code to change the advertisements to just advertising the Wii.
Interesting. Okay, so they're at least willing to do some kind of effort, but
I remember this very distinctly because at the time people were freaking out going, did Did Nintendo like see the future? Did they were they advertising the Wii back on the N64? What the fuck?
That's very interesting, actually. I never knew that.
But no. It wasn't anything crazy like that. It was just they had went into the game's code. They couldn't show those advertisements anymore, so they just changed it out.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Zombies Ate My Neighbors. There's another one that people love. It's not going to be on there. Like,
yeah, that's considered a classic.
Mega Man X will be on there, but 2 and 3 won't. Even though I really love those games, that's going to be another disappointment.
That's probably going to be the only Mega Man game.
Yeah, Super Castlevania 4 will definitely be on there, I would say.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But not Dracula X.
Well, nobody likes that one.
Yeah, nobody likes that one, even though it's a ridiculous amount of money to buy it.
Yeah, I always thought that was weird. I don't know why that game shot up in price.
I guess just because it's kind of rare or uncommon. I don't know.
Probably. Well, I think we've talked about this one enough.
Yeah.
Hope it's good. Probably won't. Let's see. So this is a discussion topic. This is something that I've been kicking around in my head for a while, and I felt like this would make for a good topic. And that is, how much of a game do you need to play in order to review it properly? So, I actually got some criticism before for my Bloodborne review because I'd only beaten the game once. And I'm not trying to send any undue hate this person's way. I'm not going to mention who they are or anything like that. And they did apologize afterwards. They realized that they were a little out of line. So, no ill will towards that person or anything. But I was criticized for only playing through that game once. And that person thought that, the Souls games are meant to be played multiple times in order to get the full experience. So, personally, I have to respectfully disagree. At least in this case. And that's kind of what I the basis of what I mean. I really think that it should be on a case by case basis because every game is different, and I think for the most part you really need to play it by ear based on what the game is and what you're trying to accomplish with the game. And even if it's a review or something else, what you're trying to accomplish with your video on it, or whatever, think piece or whatever you're trying to do. So, what are your thoughts on this?
So this is a very interesting question. I think opinions on this kind of question vary wildly from person to person. So the whole beating the game once and then not being able to properly review it, that I don't agree with either. I definitely disagree with that. It's a very interesting question because I feel it kind of can depend on the type of game. If you've played a one game and you've played maybe 9 of the 12 hours and you've seen all the mechanics that it has to offer, and the story is maybe not doing anything for you, and you never liked it in the beginning, it's not very a story focused game, I think you'd be fine to review it properly. But there's also, it's this weird thing because there's a lot of games where it can be say a 20-hour game and it might start off rough and you could play it for 3 hours and hate it, and then you might want to try to review it or something and be this game's terrible. But there's a lot of games that might start rough and I actually become quite good later on. And by the end, you might love the game. And there's the reverse of that too, where a game might be awesome. This happens to me actually a lot, where there's a game I play where I actually like it quite a bit at first, but then it just, I don't know, either gets tedious or there's mechanics introduced that I hate, or the story becomes terrible, where by the end of the game, I'm hating it.
I want to address real quick where you said you play the first 3 hours of a game and it's rough and you may want to do a video on it or something. I think that is acceptable if you would call that a first impressions.
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I do, because if I play a game, for instance, and say it's a 20-hour game, I put maybe 12 hours into it and I drop it because I just don't like it, I won't do a review on it because I feel I haven't played quite enough of it to do a proper review. So I'll do like a first impressions video.
And I think a lot of that does have to come down to the terminology that we use, because some people may play only 3 hours of a 20-hour game, and instead of calling that a first impressions, we'll call it a review. And I do think that is a problem, because you haven't played enough of a game to, consider a full review. Now, this can get blurry or nebulous, or this is where it starts to get kind of weird, because, well, how much of a game do you have to play for it to be considered first impressions? Like, what? There's no set rules here. This is kind of like play it by ear, but
yeah.
But at the same time, I think it is pretty clear in this instance of, okay, 20-hour game, you've only played 3 hours, you have no right to call that a review.
Yes, I think I can agree with that. Like, I mean, generally, I almost feel like, for me personally, it kind of is a thing where if I play maybe like 80 to 85% of a game, I feel like I can maybe properly review it. But if it's like a heavily story-focused game, maybe not, because I don't know.
No, yeah.
It's weird.
Well, I also think of it like this, going back to the whole replaying a game thing. I don't like. There are certain games, sure, where replaying it is like a part of the game. Like Nier is really predicated on you playing the game more than once in order to get the full understanding of the game.
Right.
But there are other games where it's not like that, and I don't really think there's like much of a need to play it more than once. Let's create a hypothetical. Let's say you, Joe Schmo, play a game 3 times. Now we have Jonathan Blow. He plays that same game once. Who do you think is going to have a better understanding of the game? My money's on Jonathan Blow, because he's a game developer. Even if you may have played that game more than him, he understands what it means to make a game. So I think at the end of the day, it also comes down to how much you understand the game. And yeah, sure, your understanding of a game is going to increase if you play it more, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to understand the game more than someone who's played it once. So I think there's this idea that you have to play a game multiple times, sometimes can be pretty arbitrary.
Yeah, and it also brings up the question, like, I mean, sometimes you can play a game for one playthrough, and you might love it. You really, like, absolutely love that game. And then you might want to play it a couple more times, like probably for like a platinum trophy, for instance. And for me, I find a lot of times when I play a game multiple times, I end up liking it less. Because it's like I'm tired of the game at that point, and I'm doing a bunch of these like checklist type things for like this platinum trophy, and I end up like starting to resent the game.
But is that really fair towards the game? Because you're at that point. At that point, you're doing something that that wasn't really intended for most normal players.
Yeah, and we see a lot of reviews like that. A lot of like the critiques of like a review where they'll go into with like 100% mindset, where they try to do everything in the game, and then they end up not liking the game as much. Like, I think we saw this with Breath of the Wild. I've seen a few different reviews where it's like they loved it at first, but then once they started to go for all the shrines, go for all the side quests, and do everything the game has to offer, it's like they were starting to become more negative on the game.
See, that's why I stopped playing the game once I started feeling that. I didn't get all the shrines. I got like 104. I almost got all the shrines. But, I definitely didn't do all the side quests and shit. I didn't try to get the Hylian shield, or, there's plenty of stuff that I still could have done that I just refused, because I was like, I'm fucking done. I'm going to beat the game. I may go back to it some other time down the road, but, I had my fill.
Yeah, you were satisfied with the experience at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like you mentioned with Nier, because there is games that I have to admit that if you do finish it once, like Nier Automata is a great example. If you finish that game once, just the first playthrough, and you review it, I don't know. I don't quite agree with that. I don't think you can properly review it based on one playthrough. Like, that game is meant to have the first 5 endings, and you're not repeating content or anything. It's not like a game where you're repeating the same stuff over and over and over again just to get like this very minor ending. That game is completely different on multiple playthroughs.
Yeah, because some people have this mindset that, when do you beat a game? You see credits, that's it, you beat a game. But
Yeah.
in Nier Automata, you can see credits by dying in the very first beginning, like, tutorial mission of the game. That's technically an ending. Did you beat the game? I don't. In my opinion, no, you didn't do shit.
No, yeah. But it's a tricky question too, because there's other games where it's like there's true endings, and you don't really properly beat the game until you get the true ending. But some games, getting the true ending is a pain in the ass. It requires all this tedious bullshit.
Well, like, we were talking Persona, but like Personas 3 and 4 have true endings as well. But like, if you didn't get the true endings in those games, I wouldn't tell you that you shouldn't review the game though, because that's stuff that happens like towards the end of the game in order to, like, it determines like what ending you get. So I still say, like, yeah, you've played like considerable chunk of that game. So just because you didn't see like the last 1% of the game, I don't really think that I don't really think that your review is now invalidated.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. I guess with me, it's basically one of those things where if I see someone review a game and they only played it for like 2-3 hours, or they play a game and they've played it for maybe 5 hours, and they all of a sudden they're just like, this is the best game ever, and they review it, and it's like, nah, that I have an issue. I take issue with when people do that kind of thing.
Unless the game is that short.
Unless the game is that short, but
like Her Story, like that game's pretty short.
Yeah.
Like, there was another game I was thinking of called Way of the Samurai. It's a series. And that series is all about replaying the game multiple times. If you play through that game and get an ending, you haven't seen shit. Because the game is all about, like, okay, the decisions that you made led you to ending X, Y, or Z, or whatever. Because there's like 30, 40 endings in each of those games. There's like tons of endings. But like each playthrough is like really short. Or it could be as long or short as you want it to be, but for the most part, like, each playthrough only lasts like a couple of hours. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depending on how you go about it. So I would say, like, in that case, alright, well, how much of that game would you need to have played in order to, like, review it properly? I'm not really sure, to be honest. Like, I actually did review the third game in the series, like, a really long time ago. Old shitty review. I don't recommend it. But I did go as far as to get every single ending, or at least the grand majority of them. I think I may have missed an ending or two, but by that point I had played like so many hours of the game. I'd done so much in the game. I felt like, yeah, okay, I've done enough here where I think I've formulated a valid opinion on it. But I think, like, games like this is just one of those weird examples of, like, well, how much of the game do you need to experience before you can formulate a valid opinion?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like, I would say with that one, like, maybe half of the endings, I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know either.
Like, Virtue's Last Reward is another weird game because there's so many endings to that. Do you get only one ending and then you review it? No, you can't do that.
But do you need to get every single ending?
Yeah. Do you maybe only need to get 75% of them? Because, I mean, with that game, it's like you've seen all the kind of like the gameplay if you've gotten like half of the endings. But if you don't get the true ending of that game, you're missing out on a lot of the story, a lot of what makes that game special.
I think what really bothers me is that some people have like these very rigid conditions and they don't bend for them at all, regardless of what game it is. And I think that's the real problem here.
Yeah, for sure.
When in reality, it's not that simple. You just can't use this one standard for every type of game because there's so many different types of games that are meant to be played in different ways and experienced in different ways that it doesn't always work. And what we should be doing is, like I said in the beginning, it should be on a case-by-case basis. And I also think what type of video you're trying to make factors into it a lot as well. Like, we've been generally talking about reviews, but what if you just want to do a think piece? Like, this one guy, I really like his videos. His name is Writing on Games. And he doesn't, for the videos that he makes, he doesn't need to beat the games in order to get the point across that he wants to get across. So I'm pretty sure for a good number of them, he doesn't, unless he's, like, talking about the ending of a game or something. Should he be criticized because he didn't beat Yakuza 0 in order to talk about how Yakuza 0 handles its tone between its side stories and its main story? I don't think so. I think him playing like a quarter or half of that game is fine and enough of the game in order to get across his think piece.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, it's really one of those things you have to look at it on a game by game basis. Like for instance, Trails of Cold Steel, Trails of the Sky.
Yeah, Trails
second
of the Sky.
chapter. Second chapter. I got maybe 20 hours into that game. I didn't see the full story. I generally learned all the mechanics of the game and the structure of the game, but I felt like I can't do a review on this. I don't know the full story behind it. The gameplay was enough to make me drop it, so I'll do a first impressions. Whereas Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, I played like 20 of the 25 hours of that game. I'd seen all the gameplay to it. I'll just do a review on this. I feel like I've played enough of it. I can do a review.
Yeah, I think there is something to be said, though, if you play through a game and you really didn't like it and you had to give up at some point, I think that's valid in its own way, as long as you make that clear.
Yes.
If you're playing a game and you get halfway through it, like 20 hours of like a 40-hour game, and you're like, fuck this shit, I'm done, and you go to write your review, as long as you make it very clear, you say, hey, look, this is based on such and such number of hours of such and such hour game, and I gave up for these reasons, and you just just go through it and explain like what your problems with the game were and why you couldn't handle it anymore, why you couldn't take it. I think that's all valid in its own way.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit of one of those like loaded questions. There's so much to say about it, and then just the opinions can vary. You have to really take it by game basis. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, because again, my problem was like a lot of people just take this really simplistic approach to it, to such a complex thing, and that really bothers me. So
right, yeah.
I hope some people who are watching this may be a little more enlightened now and be like, okay, yeah, maybe there is a lot more to it, and we shouldn't have the same standards for like every single thing. Since it was a hit, a lot of people seem to like this. We're gonna keep going with the Ultimate Floyd Instrumentality project.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of comments, on the podcast saying they like this segment, which is pretty funny.
And like I said, the name is like it's just an homage or like a reference to another anime, and maybe one of these days I'll have you watch that anime. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about it, but definitely not anytime soon. Because it's a pretty contentious show.
Yeah, I've heard about it and kind of like read like synopsis on it. It seems it seems pretty crazy. It seems like something I would watch way later after I've watched quite a bit.
Yeah. This is not one to watch right now. It would be a bit much. Like I remember I tried getting a friend of mine to watch it a little too soon, and he was like, "This is too weird, dude." And I'm like, "Okay. Yeah, maybe it was." And then I got him to watch it sometime later. And then he was like, okay, I'm ready now. And then he ended up liking it.
Okay, yeah. Because I can imagine if someone like watched it for like it was the first anime they'd ever seen.
Oh, God.
Wow.
That would be weird because it's like this roller coaster of emotions. And it seems so light at first, and then it becomes like really dark and depressing, and it's just like all over the place. And yeah, because wow, I can't imagine that being my first anime or anyone's first anime. That'd just be fucking weird. Anyways, we're not talking about anything going on. We're gonna talk about Magnetic Rose, which is the anime I recommended Ultimate Floyd last time. So first I gotta ask, did you like it?
Okay, so first I was actually I remember you saying it was basically a part of this three. It's like a three different animes, and it's kind of like a movie called Memories. And actually, I after I watched that, I like kind of like read reviews of. Apparently, the Magnetic Rose is considered like way better than the other two. I don't know if you've seen the other two.
I haven't, because I like Magnetic Rose so much. I was like, I don't need to bother with the other two.
Okay, so I think I liked it. It's this is a weird one. So it's there.
Well, it's better for you to say you think you liked it as opposed to not. So
yeah,
that's
I didn't
something.
dislike it. There's a lot to think about with it, even though it's like this short 40-minute kind of anime.
I know, right?
One thing I want to start off with is like any anime I've seen from like the early 90s and 80s. I just love the atmosphere that these have. Like it's just this has atmosphere in it. The music is actually really striking. Like the imagery in it, I like a lot.
Here's the thing, and this is a big reason why a lot of modern anime kind of annoys me. With its visuals, they're very colorful, very pastel looking, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that inherently. It's just a different style. But I really lament that anime doesn't look like Magnetic Rose anymore, because it had a real sense of grit. It had this real sense of atmosphere, and a lot of it had to do with its use of black colors and shading that just really isn't used in anime anymore.
Yeah, like I look at an anime like this, or something like even Perfect Blue, and it's like new anime just doesn't look like this anymore. And it's like, I don't know.
It's like a lost art.
Yeah, like Berserk had the same kind of thing too. It had like that gritty tone and just like the look to it, that I really liked. But like at first, I liked the mystery that this had. Like when they first discover this space station. And it's like you have all like this like European decor and like this like the painting of like the woman. You're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's really weird.
So that mystery was really compelling to me. And just again, the atmosphere I really liked as well. And basically the paranormal stuff starts happening, and so like the question is this, is like you were saying last podcast, is this actually real, or is this actually just hallucinations that they've been having? Are we going to talk about spoilers with this?
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that, but you're right. Okay, you know what? We're gonna go spoilers. So
yeah, it's tough to talk about without the spoilers.
It's gonna be too hard to discuss this without spoilers. So I'm warning everyone now. I'll probably put a timestamp. Skip to that point if you don't want to get spoiled. To avoid spoilers, skip to 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 30 seconds.
Okay, so basically, I really liked the backstory behind. I think her name was Eva. I think.
Yeah, where she basically killed her husband.
Yeah, which you don't know that at first. That's kind of part of the mystery that I really liked, and that she was the opera singer that kind of lost her voice. Like all that stuff, I really liked. And then towards the end, it kind of, I don't know, I was a little confused. I guess it seems like the AI hologram was like malfunctioning, like there was something wrong with the computers in the ship.
Uh-huh.
And it's like the one character was hallucinating, and then he felt he was Carlo, the fiance that got murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Miguel.
And then the other guy, basically like their ship, I think it was called the Corona, like got basically like, I think the magnetic field like pulled it towards like I guess like they call it the Magnetic Rose. And it kind of got destroyed basically, or like got sucked into the rose, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think the implication is that they got totally fucked at the end.
Yeah. And then the other character was like drifting in space at the end, and he's alive somehow. That I was kind of confused. Like, how is he still alive?
I don't remember that part, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. The ending I felt was like it just like came up really fast. But I guess like, what would you say are kind of like the themes of this?
I think a lot of it has to do with loss, because the main character, not the guy that thought he was Carlos, but the one that, like his daughter. He lost his daughter at some point, and kind of the way that he felt about that may have been similar to Ava losing her voice. So
Yeah, and it's got like kind of like an overall kind of haunting feel to it. Actually, the more I talk about this, the more I realize, you know what, I think I did like it. It's just, it didn't, something about it didn't quite like blow me away or anything. I don't know if I was really, maybe I was expecting too much out of it, because it is kind of like this short story. It almost reminded me of like Black Mirror is one of my favorite shows. It's on Netflix, and it's kind of like an anthology series. And this almost, I would assume, like the 3 movies in this are kind of like short stories to do with memories, because memories play a pretty big story.
That's another obvious theme of memories.
Yeah, so, and it's like very sci-fi, which I like. So it reminded me of Black Mirror and like the Twilight Zone a little bit, where it's like kind of like this short story. But yeah, it didn't really like blow me away or anything. But I did enjoy it, I think.
Well, I don't think it's meant to. I don't think they ever meant for it to be like this explosive, like mind fuck type of thing. But like I just think it's like a really subtle, very well crafted experience.
Right. Yeah, and I think the reveal that his daughter died, I think was handled really well. Like I liked that quite a bit. It might be my favorite part of the whole thing.
I think I'm going to be honest. I think I choked up a little bit during that scene.
Really?
I don't know. That sort of thing just like really gets me.
Interesting. Yeah, it's not quite for me, but
I would also say like a lot of it has to do with perception, because they were hallucinating and stuff, and in a way that's kind of how dreams are like, where dreams are these kind of ephemeral things that like the way you see things in your dreams are distorted, so it feels like it's there but it's not, and a lot of that is consistent in this film as well.
Yeah, it's some of the imagery in this I really liked. Like I don't know, like it was really interesting to look at. The soundtrack was interesting too, with like a lot of the opera music mixed in with like more kind of like normal melodic kind of dark music.
And I alluded to this before when I recommended it to you, but like one of the things I like the most about it is I feel strongly that if you want it to be a supernatural story, it can be, but if you don't, it doesn't have to be. I feel like there can be valid explanations for both.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like personally, me, I would lean toward not supernatural. Although I think it's mostly because I just can't stand supernatural shit in anything. So I always kind of go towards anything that's not. But I like the fact that it could be actually looked at both ways. Like
if you think about it, maybe the hallucinations that they were seeing were implanted in their eyesight by the holograms or whatever, or like the AI was doing something to like their vision that made them see things that wasn't there. Like all of that can be explained through the science in some way, I think. Even if the science isn't explained to us, I think it doesn't need to be. It's vague enough to where like, okay, this is far enough into the future where sure, that explanation could work.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
But if you want it to be, spooky ghost story, that's fine. But I prefer not to see it that way either.
Yeah, I know supernatural stuff just never does anything for me. It's just always so silly to me.
And like with the main character seeing his daughter, I kind of see that could either be like maybe the AI was able to analyze his brain or something and was projecting his memories. Personally, yeah, I don't think of it as a ghost story. It's all science. And maybe that woman uploaded her mind into the AI, and it's not like her soul is in the AI or anything, but like her brain makeup, or what made up her personality was downloaded into the AI.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the entire time, actually. That was what I was more leaning towards. And that's another thing that reminds me of like a lot of like sci-fi things I've seen. I've always loved that idea of like transferring like human consciousness and things like that to like an AI.
Yeah, the game Soma actually talks about that.
Yeah, that's one of those games I've always wanted to play because I've heard like the story in it's just really good, but the actual gameplay seems kind of Yeah,
that's basically what I've heard as well. But Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I was hoping you'd like it a little more, but I'll take what I can get.
So, one thing actually, I didn't know this. The guy who wrote it, like did Perfect Blue, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he actually died. I didn't know that.
Yeah, sadly, he actually died before he could create his last film.
Okay, interesting. I had no idea. Yeah, that sucks. Well, yeah, the two things I've seen that, well, I guess the one was only written, but I've definitely liked both of them. So
another movie that he did that I really, really like is Millennium Actress.
I've heard of that one. I have heard of that. I think this probably is after Perfect Blue, one of the more famous ones, right?
Yeah, that's what he did after Perfect Blue. Then he did Tokyo Godfathers, and the last one he did was Paprika.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, that inspired Inception.
Did it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, look at that. I'm reading the story now. Wow. Okay. So is he mostly known for sci-fi?
Not really. I don't think so. Like, Millennium Actress is not sci-fi.
Oh, okay, it's not.
Neither was Perfect Blue.
Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, Perfect Blue isn't. Yeah. I don't know, for whatever reason,
Yeah, Tokyo Godfathers wasn't sci-fi. Paprika is kind of sci-fi, though.
Yeah, it sounds... Actually, wow, interesting.
He was one of the greats, and it just makes me so sad knowing that he still had more to give us, and then he passed away. I'll probably recommend you Millennium Actress some other time. I don't want to recommend you too much of his work all at once.
Just watch all of his work.
Well, you should at some point, but the next thing I'm going to recommend you actually is about the same length. I've always kind of considered this kind of a difficult franchise to jump into, but after watching this, I feel pretty strongly like, yeah, okay, this is a good place to start, and that is Gundam Thunderbolt.
Okay, yeah, I remember you mentioning this one to me before.
Yeah, I don't know how you feel about big robots. I don't know if you are adverse to them or not.
See, generally, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'm willing to give it a chance if it's like more. I don't know. Something about robots that just doesn't.
Let me put it this way. In Gundam, it's not actually about the robots. It's about war.
Okay, see, that I don't mind. That I like if it's more like that.
Just think of the big robots as just their tanks. It's not actually about them. At one point, they'll be like, oh, we're going to make like a bigger, badder one. And that's as far as it'll go. And then you see them duke it out and it's cool to look at. But the actual story, generally speaking, is not really about the big robots. At most, like in the original Mobile Suit Gundam back in like 1979. Was it 79? It was it was back in the 70s. Like the big robot is not just there just for whatever. It's actually supposed to be symbolic of responsibility. And the main character Amuro, at the beginning of the story, he's a wuss and he sucks. He doesn't know how to pilot very well. But then by the end of it, he grows up. He becomes a man. He becomes hardened by war, and he over time starts to grow up, becomes a better pilot. I would say the Gundam is comparable to like the lightsabers from Star Wars. It's not about the lightsabers. The lightsabers are just like a narrative tool, in the same way the Gundams are. They're symbolic of certain things.
So this movie, I assume I don't need to know anything about Gundam to appreciate it, right?
All you need to know is that the Earth Federation is fighting against the Principality of Zeon.
Those names. So, yeah, because, like, Gundam is one of those things that just seems so... It's like, there's too much.
There is. Yes, there is. But lucky for you, I've seen a lot of it.
Okay, and this is, like, a short kind of movie, right?
It's only an hour long.
Yeah, so that's not bad.
And if you like it, they are going to release another one.
Okay.
So then you'll have something to look forward to. I was actually kind of debating whether you should watch this one or War in the Pocket, which is, like, 6 episodes long. But I think this is probably the better choice. It's pretty new. Like, it came out not that long ago. But luckily, it's not one of those anime that looks overly pastel looking. Like they actually employed some shading. Hallelujah. So it actually like retains that level of grit to it, along with improvements to animation over the years.
Okay, yeah, the war theme is interesting. Have you seen Grave of the Fireflies?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's probably. Like, that one's really good, although it's the kind of thing that I would only watch once because it's just like, Jesus Christ, man, that just completely destroys you.
Yeah, I've only seen it once, and I don't think I could ever go back to it.
Yeah, that was a really powerful anime.
I remember a friend of mine randomly was like, oh, I haven't seen Grave of the Fireflies in a while, I should watch it again. And I'm like, why? Why would you do that to yourself?
A mean thing would be just saying, like, don't telling anybody about it. Just like, oh, this is really awesome anime. You should watch it.
Oh, that'd be terrible.
They're just
man, whoever would do that's a fucking prick, or he must really hate that person. But yeah, I'm glad you liked Magnetic Rose. I think it's really good. I think it's pretty underrated. Nobody's really, I don't know anyone else that really knows about it. I only ever found out about it because a friend of mine recommended it to me, and no one else has really like heard of it. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I gotta say, when I first saw that, it was like early 90s. I'm like, okay, there's a good chance I'll like this.
Yeah, and I'd say, like, compared to, probably a lot of other anime, it's a lot more subtle, more nuanced. It's got a lot more going on. I think it's also one of those anime that it probably, I'm not saying you should, but, like, I think it probably benefits from, like, a rewatch, because then you pick up on stuff more.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and okay. I hope you enjoy Gundam Thunderbolt. This one, like I said, is more focused on like the war aspect of it, but it's also like an entertaining film. It's not like Magnetic Rose, which is like this more of an experience. This is like an entertaining film to watch. It's got great visuals, really cool fight scenes in it, but at the same time, it also pretty like harshly depicts like the horrors of war. Like there's like one scene in particular that's like my favorite scene in the film, where all it is, it's just the main, like one of the main characters. He's doing like a training regiment, and then it's reminding him of his life, probably because of like the song that he decided to put on. It made him nostalgic, and he started remembering like his life, and it's just like this great flashback scene that only lasts like a couple of minutes of how he I guess I shouldn't say, but I'll just say like it's like this really great flashback sequence that only lasts like a couple of minutes, and I'd say like that couple of minutes tells more and informs you more about this character than other shows failed to deliver on like explaining a character in like several episodes. Right,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely sounds interesting to me. So yeah, definitely we'll watch it for the next time.
So if the big robot kind of thing kind of bugs you, I think you'll appreciate the war aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I always like war themes in media.
And there's also a lot of jazz music. I don't know how you feel about jazz, but
jazz is great.
There you go. The main character really loves his fucking jazz. There's actually this one really great scene where you see the main character attacking one of the soldiers, but you see it in the perspective of the soldier, and he likes to play his jazz music while fighting. So like the guy's like looking around, he doesn't know where he is, and then suddenly you hear the jazz music, and then he gets his arm sliced off or something, and then he goes away, and then the jazz music fades out. It's like this fucking amazing scene.
Okay, that sounds cool.
And now we're going to answer some questions that we got from comments in the previous video. If you want to leave some questions on this video in the comments so you can hear them get answered in the next episode, go ahead and we'll be sure to answer them for you. What is the most edgiest game, show, manga, etc. that you've experienced and regretted watching?
So basically, like edgelord, edgelord shit.
Yeah, I've got an answer primed and ready. Do you want me to say it first?
Yeah, like he's so Dreadful Boredom asked the question. He said terraformers. I've not heard of that. Have you seen that?
I have not, but I've heard bad things.
Okay, interesting. I'm curious to check it out because like I think like shows that try to be as edgy as possible are kind of fascinating to me.
Well, I've got a few in mind actually.
Okay, so yeah, what are the ones that you've got?
I think I may have linked to you a video of me talking about it, but there's one called Elfin Lied.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's basically shock value the anime. It's terrible. It's one of the worst anime I've ever seen, and it's also like weirdly like some people consider it a classic, and it's fucking bad, like really really bad. It tries to use really bright colors. I think it's trying to go for like a juxtaposition type of thing. It's like, oh look, it's cutesy, but it's actually really dark. Haha, get it? And it doesn't work at all because the art is really flat and bad. And the characters are really annoying and vapid. There's the main character, his name is Lucy, and she's this like weird race that doesn't get explained. She's a Declonus, but we don't know where they come from or how they're created, or where, like we don't know anything about them, but they just kind of exist for some reason. And they have these invisible hands called vectors that like can rip people apart. They control them with their minds. And it's like, what the fuck? What is this shit? And the blood and the gore in it is so over the top. Like, the very beginning, very first episode, Lucy kills this girl who's like kind of a dumb, ditzy, clumsy girl. And she just like kills her by like twisting her head off and using her body as like a human shield while she's getting shot at. Like this, it just goes all out in like the edginess. And not to mention she's walking naked entirely during this scene. She's naked for like, I'd say like more than half of the show actually. Just because, I guess.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Like, because yeah, I saw a few clips of this show, and it's like, I don't think that can be beat. I think that's like the number one. I don't think anything I could possibly watch would be
edgier.
Like the only other thing I can think of is the Gantz anime that I was kept talking about. Like that was just, it was just constant gore and like all these like, I don't know, it was just trying to be like edgy.
Yeah, I
like,
heard that was pretty bad. Oh, get this. So there's like one little girl that was like sexually abused by like her stepdad or some shit, and her mom hated her because the stepdad kept, trying to sexually abuse her, and it was like, what the fuck is this? And she's only like 10 or 12 or something, like really young, so it's extra gross. Just like slather on the fucking disgusting on this show. Like, watching that show like almost made me physically sick. It was that fucking gross. And of course, like the gore and the blood and the violence in it is so detailed and over the top. The show looks like shit in general, but they made damn sure to pour all the money into making sure that you could see the bone and sinew whenever somebody's hand or fingers or whatever get cut off.
Like, it really sounds like something that's trying so hard to appeal to like 10-year-olds. Like,
I guess. I know if I saw that when I was 10, I'd probably freak out. There was also a scene with the dog. There was a scene where they, like, these kids, for no reason, literally no fucking reason, take a hammer and kill this little puppy dog just because Lucy liked the dog. And they wanted to hurt her feelings. So they killed the dog.
What?
And she freaked out so hard she killed all the kids. Yeah.
Is this show try to be funny?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
is it some kind of...
So get this then. Since you just asked that, the other half of the show, when it's not trying to be super edgy, is like a dumb slice of life slapsticky comedy. It's
What?
so jarring and weird.
The show sounds like a complete mess.
It's a train wreck.
There's something about it that sounds appealing to me. Like, it's something like maybe I would watch just to fucking laugh at it. But
that's the only way you could get any enjoyment out of this show. It's so fucking bad. Another show that's pretty edgy, although nowhere near as edgy as Elfen Lied, is Akame ga Kill. Although I think the edginess in Akame ga Kill it pisses me off a little bit more in certain ways. It's not as over the top edgy, but like it tries to get you to care. And that's what it... Well, Elfen Lied does that too, to be fair. But the way that Akame ga Kill does it is also like particularly manipulative, where every single time, and it's like clockwork, it's like a formula at some point, every single time a character's about to die, it shows you a flashback of their backstory so you can sympathize with them, just for the show to kill off that character like right after. And it happens every single time. You won't know a goddamn thing about these characters, even though they're like quote unquote like main characters or like prominent characters. You won't know a single fucking thing about them except for maybe like, you know, their general character traits. Well, one trait probably. And then all of a sudden it front loads you this backstory out of nowhere and tries to get you to care, and then they cut their head off or something.
I see. I've heard about this show, but I haven't seen an episode.
It's bad.
Wait,
real bad.
This isn't the show. There's one anime that I saw. I forget I saw like the first episode. It was like this school where it was mostly females, and then there's like this kid that's like in the school as well. It was almost like a prison school.
Are you talking about the anime Prison School? Because there is an anime called that.
That might be it.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
It was like, yeah, that was another one that I remember was just trying to be super edgy.
I haven't seen that one.
I don't know if it's considered good or not. I think it was like one of those ones that was considered terrible, but I don't know.
Like the reception on Prison School has been kind of mixed, where some people are like, this is just too over the top and weird, and some people are like, no, the over the topness is what makes it like entertainingly dumb. So I don't know.
Yeah, I can see the appeal in it. For, like me, it was just like, this is stupid.
All right, so what since I've gave some answers already, so what is like the edgiest shit that you've seen that you regretted?
Like, I'm really it's actually kind of tough to think, but like, I guess, you know what, I probably could get shit for this, but the Daredevil TV show, honestly,
really
is something. Yeah, I don't know, it was just, I felt like I was trying so hard. No, I like, basically the only stuff in it I liked was the Punisher stuff, which is hardly any of the show. And now they're actually doing a Punisher show, so I'm gonna be watching that. But like,
I haven't seen season 2. I only saw season 1.
The villain. What was his name in the first season?
Fisk.
Yes, I liked him. I thought he was a good villain. Other than that, I didn't like any of the rest of it.
Oh wow, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it didn't do anything for me. And then season 2, I got halfway through. I was like, yeah, no, I can't get into this.
I didn't think it was that edgy, honestly.
It doesn't compare to like the stuff you've brought up. Like, because I'm like thinking of stuff, and it's actually kind of hard. I don't like. It's really like only really like Gaunt's anime I've seen. I guess I'm trying to think of like movies and TV, and it's just, I don't know. There's not too much that comes to mind. Actually, you know what? Okay. It's the David Lynch movie called Lost Highway.
Okay. I've never seen it.
It's a really abstract, like cerebral kind of movie. Like, it's got like a lot of weird imagery in it, but it just, I don't know. It just, it tries so hard to like shock you. And I don't know. It really didn't do much for me.
I think that movie had a Rammstein song in it, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh Honestly, like when I think back of the soundtrack, it wouldn't surprise me. It probably did.
Yeah, I remember seeing a Rammstein documentary, and it got brought up that that movie, or at least one of David Lynch's movies, although I think it was Lost Highway, was the one that had it.
Right. Yeah. I guess another thing, almost every Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now that I think about it, like fucking every single movie he's done except maybe like the Dawn of the Dead remake was actually pretty good, but the rest of his movies have been just utter trash.
Like Man of Steel. Blech.
Yeah, even 300, honestly, I think is terrible.
I think 300 is enjoyably dumb. Like if you don't take it seriously at all, that movie is fun.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since, but I was just like, ugh.
Oh no, I totally get not liking it because it's a dumb movie. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't take it seriously and you accept it for its stupidity, it's fun in its dumbness.
Yeah, but like Man of Steel and that new Batman versus Superman seem pretty edgelord to me.
I haven't seen Batman versus Superman, and I don't care to.
No, I haven't seen it or Suicide Squad. I don't like. I just have no interest. I'm sorry. Like, it's like I heard they're bad, so I'm not big into superhero movies all that much. So
when I very first saw Man of Steel, like I thought I was like, this was okay, but it was one of those movies where like the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, this is bad. This is really bad.
But yeah, I can't really think about much else. It's one of those things where you have to really think about. I guess there's a lot of like horror movies, like gore fest type horror movies that I think are try too hard.
I don't really watch a whole lot of horror stuff, so
yeah. I don't either because precisely because of that. It's just a lot of them.
Yeah, I also just have this thing where like what I was talking about with Elfen Lied, where like they had this like really hyper detailed gore. That stuff like really bothers me. Like when it's like dumb over the top gore, like that doesn't bother me. But when it's like really realistic, like detailed gore, that makes me feel kind of nauseous.
Okay, so you definitely do not watch Cannibal Holocaust then.
No thanks. I will like you can't pay me to watch any of the Saw movies. I'm like, fuck that shit.
Oh, really? Not even those? Okay.
No way.
Those are like, I feel like those are just, I don't know. You almost just watch them just to see what they do with the deaths. Like you don't care about the story or anything. It's just like how fucked up they get.
I haven't seen any of them, so I don't know how bad it gets. But just the idea of it, I'm just like, nope.
Yeah, some of them are pretty gnarly. I kind of like the first movie actually. I think it's actually like a decent kind of little horror movie, and then they just got insane with all the sequels. But how about Final Destination? Have you seen those?
I think I remember seeing some of it, but the deaths were too silly for me to get like grossed out.
Okay, yeah, some of them are pretty gnarly.
I didn't sit down and watch like the whole thing. I just remember seeing like some of it, and I saw some deaths and I was laughing. I was like, that looks so fucking dumb.
Yeah, some of them had some like it was weird because some of them were really stupid and almost like slapsticky in a way, but others were kind of gruesome.
You gotta think like maybe they were handled by like different teams or something. Like certain deaths were handled by like the A team, and some were handled like by the B team or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I mean, if there's some that's like really fucking gnarly, and then some that just look dumb, you know, I can't imagine them being done by the same people.
Yeah, they were all directed by different people for the most part. I think there was like maybe a couple that were done by the same guy, but yeah, there's a weird overarching storyline to those movies that's kind of fascinating. Like those movies are entertaining. Like they're definitely not good, but they're entertaining.
Actually, I want to introduce a bonus segment real quick. You want to talk about Rick and Morty?
Yes. hands down.
Yeah, because they dropped that fucking episode on April Fool's, and it was awesome.
That was like the best April Fool's I've ever seen, because it was like not some stupid joke. It was something real.
Well, I mean, Samurai Jack fans got burned.
Oh, yeah, but...
Hey, I like Samurai Jack.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it probably did suck for that, but...
Yeah, it's like somebody posted like the perfect fucking picture. It was like a picture of Jack smiling. It's like, hey, they put a new episode of Rick and Morty, and then right after it was him like sad. It's like, but they took away Samurai Jack.
I don't know why they did that exactly. They could have just ran the episode after or something.
Yeah, they should have done that, but fuck. I had to wait another week until I could see the episode. It was a really good episode.
No, but yeah, the Rick and Morty premiere was really good. I guess the only disappointing thing is the fact that I thought it was actually officially the start of the season, but they're actually not starting it till the summer. Which
that
sucks.
Yeah, that sucks. But at least we got something, and at least we know that we're getting a season 3, because for a while there I was thinking, like, are we even getting it? Like, there was radio silence for like a year and a half.
I know. I felt like it lasted forever.
But we're finally getting 9 more seasons, Morty. I need that nugget sauce.
So it's pretty hilarious because because that sauce did actually exist. There's a commercial of it on YouTube.
Yes.
I'm like, damn, now I really want to try that sauce.
Yeah. The Sanchuan sauce. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, for the movie Mulan.
Mulan.
It's so fucking obscure. I love it.
And the alien is like eating it while like Rick's family is like dead in front of him. He's like, this nugget sauce is fucking amazing. This was for a movie.
And the funny thing is, I read a bunch of like people's opinions that actually tried the sauce when it came out. Everyone just agrees. Everyone's like, yeah, that sauce was the shit.
You know, I saw an eBay listing. Someone kept a sealed Sanchuan sauce, and they're selling it on eBay for like $30,000.
Wow, that's surprising. The funny thing is, too, on Twitter, like the Rick and Morty official Twitter was like, I think sends a message to McDonald's or something, like bring back the sauce. And I think McDonald's replied with, I forget what they said though. They said something.
Probably like not gonna happen.
No, I don't know. If that did happen, that would be the best.
That would be so awesome, because I want to try the sauce now. I'm like, shit, man.
Like they'd have to name it something different, but I mean,
yeah, they probably would, but like, who cares? They could just use the same formula or the same recipe.
Yeah, but if anyone hasn't seen Rick and Morty, like, watch Rick and Morty. Like, it's one of those shows that I honestly wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I'm normally not super into like cartoons, but like this one like expertly blends like great humor and like some really interesting sci-fi concepts. So it's like, I don't know, it's really good.
It also appeals to my nihilistic sense.
Yes, definitely.
Some of those episodes are like some of the funniest fucking episodes I've ever seen. Like, it's just so fucking good. Like, watch it. Like, I went as far as to buy it on Blu-ray, both seasons, because it's that fucking good. Everyone should watch Rick and Morty. I remember my friend Gilgamesh, she's like, oh, I don't know if I should watch it. I'm like, fuck you, watch Rick and Morty. It's good.
It's incredible. The episode with Mr. Poopy Butthole is still my favorite.
Yeah!
When I first saw that episode, I was just dying. I was just like, wow.
They even got the giraffe was voiced by Keith David.
It's just like, that episode is absolute pure insanity. Like, it's just like from start to finish, it's great.
It's like, oh, but remember all those wonderful memories we had? And they're like, oh fuck, not again.
That episode's got some really clever stuff in it too that I wouldn't want to spoil.
Yeah, like, I think it's one of those episodes you really need to see like more than once to get it, because not to understand what's going on, but just to like get all of the references and stuff, because there's so much shit in that episode.
Yeah.
Same thing with Rixty Minutes. Like, that's another one where there's just fucking tons of references.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those shows where it's actually good to watch the episodes multiple times because there's stuff that you miss so easily. Yeah, it's just that the unfortunate thing is, like, in Canada, Adult Swim is not even, like, it doesn't exist. Like, it's not on the cable channels or the satellite channels. So you pretty much have to torrent it. Like, it's ridiculous.
That's a shame. Can't you at least, like, I don't know, you can't stream it anywhere online?
Like, you could stream the new episode that came out on adultswim.com, but I just don't know if you can stream the older episodes. I don't feel like you can't unless you, like, trick it into thinking you're in the US, which it's probably easy to do. But
wow, man, that sucks.
Yeah, I don't understand it. It's like Cartoon Network is just not in Canada.
Every time I think, like, oh, maybe I should move to Canada, I hear shit like this, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Like, you guys get fucked over on, like, the weirdest shit.
We do. It's crazy.
All right, I think that's it. That's an episode, guys. You want to leave some questions, we'll be sure to answer them. If you have any suggestions, possibly, for discussion topics, we'll take them into consideration as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good idea, yeah.
Any final words?
No, that should be it. Yeah, that was a good one. Like, we had some good discussion topics. And maybe by next time we'll actually be finished Persona 5. I don't know.
I don't. Let's not make any promises we can't keep.
It's seriously like one of the longest RPGs I've ever played. Like, I don't think any RPG has taken me longer than 70 hours, and I'm like 81 here, and I'm not done. It's crazy.
Persona 3 and 4 were kind of the same. They were also really long.
Persona 3 took me like 70. Persona 4 took me like 75 or 80. I don't think they took me over 80, though.
All right, well, that's it, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. We'll be sure to be back with episode 3, whatever that may be. Take care.
Later.